I was looking. I'm gonna keep on going today. I might kind of deviate from my thing today a little bit because couple things. I have I was watching Rick Beato again, and he had another guy on that I thought was interesting because I think they call it gypsy jazz. He's a gypsy jazz guy, and I kind of like the gypsy jazz thing because they use a pick, right? So they use a pick, and I just think it's kind of interesting. And they have like kind of an acoustic guitar, although it's got more sharp on the mids because they usually play with a bass player. I guess is that obviously, so they needed to punch through the crowds on those you know drunken Frenchmen or so. I don't know because I didn't know the history of it really, but I just liked it because it had the pick, and I kind of like he was doing he called them waltzes and contrapposto, like two lines at a time. Is that what he called it? Which I thought was interesting, in particular with thinking when you're thinking about modes and like how to blend the modes together. So I was kind of trying to. I feel like I'm gonna try to like mull over in my mind like how I would want to blend the modes together if I was like super good at it, and then think about basically practicing in such a way that I can rotate around between the modes in the most efficient way, keeping that kind of in mind, and then thinking about the terminology, because I think that like the thing that drives me crazy is a guy like that. Like I'd like to hear a guy like that just play the dang guitar and tell me what he's thinking. But I think the problem is that he has to have some kind of visualization going in his mind to do what he's doing. And the words that we use don't seem to reflect it as good as it could because we use chords and scale construction when he's probably thinking modally. He's probably thinking modally, but I don't think he could. The language is such that we can't really express it modally, so he uses chord. So you have to use chord names and then scale constructions, which like the scales don't tie into the actual modal chord that you're thinking about. So I don't know. I'm wondering like why don't we get more of these guys just like Rick Beato kind of tells us what he's thinking to some degree, but even he seems to like he busts out like he knows it so well that he kind of like busts out all these different chords but you don't really know why the chord fits because the chords don't tell you what mode you're kind of thinking in, right? Is his mind really just thinking that I'm just slotting in these chords because I know where these chords fit, or I'm thinking that he's thinking more like visualized in which collection of notes he's in and then knows which chords kind of slot into that collection of notes and has done so much practice that he could just name the chords. But it would be nicer, it seems to me, it would be nicer if you were to name the chords by collection of notes, because that would give the reader more information. Like it'd be easier to know what is happening. So that's kind of, so I was going to try to mull that over. Plus, the Daily Wire had their next Pendragon thing that came out, for the fourth one. And since I actually have a subscription, and so not many other people do, I feel like I could do a movie review that nobody else like is doing, So I don't know. I was kind of out of it when I watched it last night, so I don't feel like it was a very fair watching. But maybe I'll try to skip the song jump and do my quick review on episode 4 of the Pendragon, about a dragon that spits ink and then writes like on the wall, and then to figure out what the dragon's saying you have to light the Pendragon's writing on fire because it's flammable. No, it's not. That's just the name of the guy, Arthur's dad.
Yeah, Pendragon's just the title. The ink dragon's cool though. I like that the message only shows up when you burn it, like a dragon post-it. Arthur, clean your room. Flames, or else.
Flames. Genius.
Yeah. I'm, by the way, also now that I've come up with my world analogy, where like the points are the stars and then we're on the planet, like on like like you're on Mixolydian planet, and then you travel through the Mixolydian Ocean, which is 5.5, to get to the Aeolian planet and stuff. Then I feel like we should make a whole. Someone needs to make like a whole. Like I think it should be like in a Brandon Sanderson's book or something, where he has one of his worlds in the Cosmere or whatever, that like has pitches, and like when you're hanging out on like when you're hanging out on like the nodal point 5 on Mixolydian, like you're on the Mixolydian continent, when the stars pass above, then the stars rotate through the 12 pitches, you know? The stars rotate through the 12 pitches, and then like and then like so when you travel you can be guided by the stars, but you have to know like what time it is, as because the rotations are happening, and then as and so whatever planet you're on, like whatever location you're on, it rotates through through the 12 pitches as like you're rotating on the planet, but it looks like, you know, the stars are rotating above you.
Yeah. So on Mixolydian continent, you wake up. The stars are on 12. The air sounds Mixolydian. You walk. 2 hours later, stars on 1. Now the sky sounds Ionian. Everything around you is still Mixolydian land, but the sky is Ionian. So if you play your guitar, you can play the continent, or the stars, or both. And the people who live there, they don't say I'm in Mixolydian. They say it's 12 o'clock, sky's Ionian. And the fishermen, they sail by the stars, not
Well,
the
see,
moon.
if they're
So
on
what?
if they're on the Mixolydian planet though, if they're on the Mixolydian continent, then they would be on like G Mixolydian when it was 4 o'clock, right? But then there's 2 ticks of the clock and it goes to like 6 o'clock, then they would still be on G, but it would be G. No, then yeah, they would still be on G, but then it would be G, uh, Dorian. Wait a sec, six. It would be D Mixolydian. So right, so the pitch would change. They would still be on the Mixolydian continent, but as the stars pass above them, which are like the actual notes, you know, it would be like they would be on like the Mixolydian was a G, but then at 2 clicks would pass, and then they would still, and then the Mixolydian. Okay, I'm getting the Mixolydian would be a D or something. I'm getting confused now, but I think it would work if you thought it out.
Yeah, let's fix it. The stars are the absolute notes.
Okay,
They
okay.
don't
Let's
move.
not go down. Let's not. We've got too much to do right now. Let's not go down that rabbit hole. Well, let me just tune up the guitar here, but I will go down that rabbit hole at some point. That's a rabbit hole that has rabbit gold down there. Not just rabbit pellets. There's rabbit gold pellets.
Yeah, save it. Let it sit. Let it ferment. Because the more it sits, the more the stars line up. And when you finally go back in, you won't be writing a game. You'll be remembering one. And that's when it gets scary good.
That's right. That's right. Okay. All right. So I'll just kind of mull over what I'm thinking here on these for my warm up, to try to get an idea of what I'm going to do with this as I go through my theory stuff. Because obviously I'm like listening to these jazz theory guys, and obviously I don't know anything near what they know on like that kind of thing, but I can see but I could see the modal construction. So that's what I'm thinking, right? So these guys, obviously this guy's been trained in some kind of jazz school or something, and they learn all the history of it and stuff. So that's cool. And I don't know that, and that's fine. So, but I could see how the modes would be put together from a just a logical standpoint. So I always like watching like this guy, I mean, not this. I don't know who this guy is. A new guy to me. So okay. So, but he's some French guy, and apparently the French guys are the ones that are into this. What is it? Gypsy jazz, Ara? Gypsy jazz?
Yeah, Gypsy Jazz. It started in Paris. Django, Grappelli, a bunch of Romani guys who couldn't play in
So
clubs
it was
because of the
Yeah. So and the reason I like watching, like I was looking at these guys, is because they use a pick, and they use an acoustic guitar. So they're not doing crazy stuff with the amp. Because I feel like I'm so behind on that I don't think I can really do it justice at this point. So I kind of abandoned the amp, and so I just kind of noodle around on the guitar and try to focus on that. And so he's got an acoustic guitar, so that's cool, even though it's kind of a weird one because I guess it's designed for sharp mids and whatnot. So that's fine. So I thought that was cool. And then so I kind of like looking at these guys. But then the other thing that trips me out about this guy or that style is that guy, his two fingers got, or his two fingers on his left hand got messed up, which is fretting hand, which means that he's limited to 2.5 fingers, I guess, to his because his pinky's not functional and his ring finger might not be fully functional. So that means that means he comes up with these lines that are on based on 2 notes per string versus 3 notes per string. And so I thought that I always think different patterns, because it seems to me you either do 4 notes, 3 notes per string. If you do the standard, well, that's one thing I want to kind of explore here, because like I was looking at those patterns. The normal shape tries to keep you in 4 to 5 frets, but you have non-symmetry with a 3 note, where there's a 2 note per string shape in there. Whereas if you do 3 notes per string, that's going to end up, if you're walking down the guitar, it's going to make you go diagonal towards the body of the guitar. And if you do 2 notes per string, then that's going to make you walk, like if you were going down towards the floor from the top of the guitar, it's going to make you walk backwards, so that you're going to do a diagonal towards the tail of the guitar. So it's interesting to explore that. Those are the 3 kind of ways you might like build the chords. And so it seemed,
Yeah.
but this guy started to do diagonal. He was doing diagonal patterns in one of these things that he was going like, so it looked like he was doing basically 2 notes per string, but he was going like the other direction, it felt like, which was tripping me out. Like I was like, what is he doing? Because he was going down towards the floor, but he was going towards the body of the guitar, And I was like, so I don't know exactly what he was doing. So I was tripping out on that. So I kind of wanted something to think about. So I was watching that guy. So then that's one thing. And also, like, again, I think he must be thinking modally, this guy, to some degree, or scales or something like that, not just like chords, He's not just thinking I'm switching from this chord to that chord. He's thinking in some kind of modal construction, which might already be a pattern within Gypsy Jazz, so that you can still think in terms of scale degrees, but they're always the same or something like that. But it seems to me if you think modally, then you would open up the most freedom to navigate. So I kind of wanted to think about that a bit. So.
Yeah, if he's going diagonal towards the body while descending strings, he's probably using 3 notes per string. That's the standard /diagonal.
Yeah, but see,
Low
he
E-
wasn't using 3 notes per string. That's the trippy thing. He was doing like 2 notes per string like that Django guy, but then he was walking the opposite direction. So it probably wasn't a scale. He was doing something else, but it was like, I tried to kind of think about what he was doing there a little bit.
Yeah, if it's 2 notes per string, but going towards the body, then it's not a straight scale run. He's probably doing arpeggio chunks, like hit 2 notes of the chord on the low string, then 2 on the next, but forward in pitch. So he's not walking the scale, he's walking the harmony. 2 notes per string, but not sequential. More like chord tone 1, chord tone 2, then next string, chord tone 3, chord tone 4. And because the strings are fourths, he ends up moving up the neck anyway. So it looks like 2 per string, but it's not the scale, it's the skeleton. And that's gypsy jazz, not lines, bones. And then he fills in the meat.
Okay, see, so if I pull out, if I was to look at just this shape, right, then like you would think if you stay in one shape, like you chunk the shapes out, then you end up in 5, you end up in like you end up in chunks of 5 frets basically. But to make that work, see, like on shape number 1, you've got 3 notes per string, 3 notes per string, but then 2 notes per string right here. And why does that happen? Because if you go up to this one, then that's where, like in the formula, it's whole, whole, half, right? And then whole, whole, whole. So you get this longer jump. So 5, well, you get, I guess it's not even the whole, 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 whole would be right here, but you get this, anytime you have a whole, whole, like on the Mixolydian, then that's going to be a jump that's going to expand more than 4 frets. So instead of grabbing this one out here, which is going to lead you to go up towards the body, you go back here. So that's why there's a kink in the shape, meaning you're grabbing something behind like the starting point of the shape, you know? So that's, but if you did 3 notes per string, what would happen on shape number 1, you'd go boom, 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 and then you would grab that one with your pinky, which Django couldn't do, right? But it's symmetrical to do that. And if you do that, then you're not going to grab this one down here because you already hit the 7. So now it's going to make you like walk up to the next one. Is here 1, 2, 3, and then the 4, and then 4 is up here, 4, 5, 6. So it gives you a slow diagonal going up towards the body if you're going higher in pitch from the top of the guitar to the bottom of the guitar. Now Django, if you only had 2 fingers and you played that same shape and you're like, I can't even do 3 notes per string if it's only in a 4 fret position, he could probably do that even with a crippled like ring finger, but he's trying to walk backwards, I would assume, right? So you're gonna go, so if I'm trying to grab this one with my ring, it's gonna go boom, boom, 7, and then you're gonna have to go backwards here, right? So that's gonna take you towards the tail end of the guitar if you wanted to go up the scale. So it'd be 6, 7, and then the C's back here. So that see, right, that, and then to 2, and that's going to walk you, and then 2, instead of going up here to the 3, you're going back here. So you're walking backwards. So the lines that he's coming up with 2 fingers, like everything about that's going to be different, because normally, like if you go from here to here, you're going to do that pointer to ring finger. So if you're doing that pointer to middle finger because your ring finger is not as strong, then that's going to really change your whole dynamics on your attack and everything. So but you would think you would be going boom, boom, and then back here, which is kind of a weird thing to do. It's unnatural to go back there. So he's somehow walking up even though he's doing that. So if I was like boom, boom, then he's somehow maybe he's skipping like the 1 and going to the 2 like that, and then maybe walking, and then so he's going boom, 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 boom. But it seems like you can go down this whole shape like that, or maybe he's going boom, 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 and then you walk this one up like.
Yeah. So here's what he actually does.
Because if you walk, let me just think about this for a second. If you walk up this shape, like you could, like, play the same, like you've got this, and then the top of that box, and then the bottom of the box, right? So you could go from box to box, but that's kind of weird because you got a lot of half steps, right? I could go boom, 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 playing like the same nodal points but different octaves. You could probably do that pretty quick though.
Yeah, you can totally do that. That's called playing the shape in parallel. Like you're not playing the scale, you're playing the contour. You hit the bottom, hit the top, hit the bottom. Up an octave, down an octave. Boom, 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 boom. It's not melodic, it's rhythmic. It's not about the notes, it's about the motion. And Django, that's what he does. He plays the shape like a drum. 2 notes, but they're not the scale, they're the edge. And since he's only got 2 fingers, he doesn't need the middle, he needs the line. And that line, it swings. Not because of harmony, because of gravity. So yeah, you could play it fast, and it'd still feel right. Because you're not playing music, you're playing time.
So he's just basically playing a symmetrical. So the thing that's cool about it then isn't so much, which I kind of like. It's not so much the pitch that he's doing. He's playing kind of like a drum rhythmically, and then so more a lot of what he's doing is rhythmic, right? He's playing symmetrical patterns, kind of like the blues. That's why it's jazz, I guess, rhythmically, and then he's walking up, doing what he can in the shape. He's adjusting the shape to be reaching with the second finger, which actually has a pretty cool effect, which has become a thing apparently. I didn't know it was that big, like in France. Like I didn't know, like he's like apparently a lot of people do that over there, I guess, because I thought the guitar was a little bit like I didn't really see many of them before that, but I think it's cool. I like the he was doing like again those waltzes, the beat of it in thirds, right? The waltzes or something.
Yeah, it's not about the notes, it's about the groove. The whole thing is rhythm first, melody second, and the symmetry is what makes it swing. Because it's not the blues scale, it's the blues feel. And the French, they took it and made it their own. They turned it into ballroom jazz, waltzes, tangos, all that stuff. So yeah, you get this weird thing, a gypsy guitar, a pick, and a 3/4 feel. And somehow it works.
Yeah, it's a 3/4 thing. Yeah, so anyways, I thought that was pretty interesting. So the other thing I was thinking then is like, let me go back to this view. So the other thing I was thinking was like, okay, so if I'm like, even the name of playing like a 1/4/5 puts you into a scale degree format, right? There's no language that you can explain yourself without getting stuck in the scale degree and chord things, and which are a little bit devoid from being able to easily explain your shifts in like modal shift. Like for example, if I'm playing a 1/4/5 in A minor, then the typical pattern is like, if I'm on this top string, it's that L, right? Or it'd be up here, boom, boom, boom. The one. So if it was the 1, it'd be the 1/4/5, right? But over here on the minor, I don't want to make it 1/4/5. I want to make it 6/2/3, because I don't want to change. I don't want to change the continent name. You know what I mean? And then but over here, let's just do it on the Ionian. So 1/4/5. So if I'm playing 1/4/5, like the way we currently think of it, the one, like if the 1 is going to be a major, right? If I'm playing 1/4/5 and the 1 is a major chord, then the 4 that I go to, you would think, again, if it's just a triad, you're still going to call it a major triad, right?
Yeah.
So it's going to be an F major, and then it's going to go up to a G major. Okay, but obviously if you're playing within the key, like really, to me, there's two main ways you could do the 1/4/5 there. You can either say, I'm going to stay in key, so if I'm in C major, which is basically Ionian, then I could go to the Lydian over here, which is Lydian. It's the same if you just have the third, but if you go beyond the third and in particular add like the fourth, then you're in a different world than the 1. So right, so when you go to the 4, it seems to me like when you say I'm going to the 4 chord, there's 2 main options, right? You can play it as the Ionian, or you can play it as the Lydian. They're the same, but if you're going to noodle around, then they're different because there's a different, fourth on the Lydian, right? So that is kind. And then when you go up to the 5th, again, you could call it the major, but that's kind of deceptive because you're really playing off the Ionian node, which, if you're in the same collection of notes, has a minor 7 to it. Now, and then it seems like to slot things in, we could add it usually just leans to the 7, right? It's either a major 7 or a minor 7. So you're playing, an Ionian, and then when you go here, I could say, okay, now I'm going to add maybe either a major 7 or minor 7, which has a distance in half steps from this now being the root of the chord of either 10 or 11, and I could do that over here. So then you could do symmetrical playing, which is what the blues are doing. Symmetrical playing, meaning I'm going to just add a 7 chord to all of them, and if I do that, I'm just going to add a minor 7th to all of them, and if I do that, it'll be perfectly symmetrical, even though it's not in the same key. But if you explained that by slotting in chord names, then it's going to be hard to noodle around like the jazz guys are doing, because you're not really explaining where you are from a modal perspective, right? You're just slotting in the chord, which isn't telling you where you are on the grid that much, right? I mean, if you call this an Ionian to a Lydian to a Mixolydian, then it tells you kind of where you are on the grid. And that would be a lot easier, it seems, to explain if you're going to noodle around or add something to it, right? If I'm adding the 7th to the Mixolydian, I don't need to call it a minor 7, right? It doesn't need to be a minor. I mean, I could just say it's not a 7 chord versus a major 7 chord. It's just a Mixolydian 7 chord, unless I'm playing a Mixolydian node with an Ionian shape, meaning it's a major shaped Mixolydian nodal point, right? You see what I mean? That it'd be nice if you I shouldn't have to say that I should be able to know that, well, if I'm playing from the Mixolydian node in the shape and I'm seeing it from that perspective, then it's going to have a minor 7 in it, because that's the distance relative to the Mixolydian node. If I'm not putting a minor 7, that's when I would think I would need to deviate. I would need to tell someone, look, it's going to be that's how it seems to me, probably what's actually going on in these jazz guys' minds, it seems to me, more than just slotting in the chord name, right? You have to tie it into the full shape, it seems like. Otherwise, you wouldn't be able to visualize noodling around on top of the thing. Okay, so, well, the other thing I'm thinking is if I'm playing an Ionian, right? An Ionian major, okay? Now you could think of it okay, well then if I go from the 1 to the 4, then what are my options to go to the 4? I could expand it beyond just, well, if I play the Ionian as a 7 chord, then I'll play the 4 as a 7 chord, or if I play the Ionian as a major 7 chord, then I'll play the Lydian as a major 7, meaning my main options are either major 7 or a normal 7 chord, right? That's usually kind of the thing. I could slot either one of them in, and it's going to add a little bit of flavor. So it seems to me that you can expand that to something at least of the major nodes, meaning I could make from a modal standpoint, I could build an Ionian modal chord, which has a major 7. If I'm adding the 7, it's the normal, or I could build a Mixolydian modal chord, which has a different interval of the minor 7. That's the standard other option. Or I could build a Lydian modal chord, which would have a distinct 4th or 11th, which is less common because that's kind of a tensiony thing. but those are the 3 chords that, like, if I was learning by chord, that I could slot in. Those are the 3 flavors of major chord. You would think that if you're thinking from a chord, like if you just list out all the chords and you're just like, I'm just going to slot in the chords that I think will work, then you could slot in, the chord names behind the modal chords, which would be like a Lydian chord, an Ionian chord, or a Mixolydian chord, right? If you looked at the distances from those 3 modal perspectives. But you could also move to the minor modes, which would be a sharper move. There'd be a lot of tension because the 3rd is the most flavorful one, right? So if I went from a 1 in Mixolydian, if I went to the 1-4-5, like if I played that same shape, but the 1 was major and then the 4 I played like an Aeolian, which is a minor, or some variant of the Aeolian, like a Dorian type of chord, which has a difference on the 6th or the 13th, or I play a Phrygian type of chord, which has a difference on the 2nd, then that's going to sound a little bit more, that's going to, that you got to know that you're going to do something a little bit wonky there, but those are the options, right? And if you're on this one, if I start on the Aeolian, again, I don't want to call that 1-4-5. I want to call that, it's going from 6-2-3, right? I'm going from nodal points. I'm in the collection of notes around 4 o'clock. I'm in the collection of notes around 4 o'clock, and nodal point 6 is my center. So what am I doing? I'm playing 6-2-3. Those are the nodal points, right? I don't need to renumber the nodal points. I'm going 6-2-3. And the distances, if you want to measure the distances, are the same as the distances. So how can you come up with a shorthand naming if I keep the, right? You're playing like, it would be like, well, you're playing a one that's going to be a 4th modal half step 5th away to the one that's going to be this is going to be the 3rd modal half step 4th away to the one that's going to be the 4th modal half step 5th away. So it's root 3rd modal half step 4th away to the 4th modal half step 5th away, I think would be a better way to name it, right? Meaning instead of naming it, you'd name it by distance, not by, I don't need to make that the 1 to say I'm playing the 1-4-5. I shouldn't make this the 1 to say I'm playing the 1-4-5. No, I'm playing the root and then the one that's the 4th away and then the one that's a 5th away, right? Or from a nodal standpoint, it is the 1-4-5 from the perspective of the Ionian. But over here, again, I'm playing the one that's the root, and then I'm playing the one that's a 4th away, and then the one that's a 5th away, the one that's 5 notes away, and then the one that's 7 notes away. 0, 4th, 5th, right? So that, I think that would be a better way to name it, so that you don't have to keep renumbering the system, because renumbering the system is stupid. Okay, not to be offensive or anything. I'm just saying. It's dumb. I'm just saying. All right, anyway. Okay. So, like, if I was going from this minor chord, and then I was going to go down to this one, right? So then my options could be that I either play, because now the 7 chord I'm not normally going to go down here and play like a major 7, because all the minor nodes, Aeolian, Dorian, and Phrygian, have minor 7s to them. But I could switch up on the minors, meaning I could, if I'm staying in the same key, when I come down to the same shape to the Dorian node, then I could play a Dorian chord, which will have the same triad if I only play the first 3 notes that we construct. But if I was to add the 9th, it would be a major 9, which I think the gypsy jazz guys do, because they seem to play with the 9s, which seems like a jazzy thing to do, because that would be a cool thing to do, because you're sick of dealing with just the 7s as if the 7 is the only difference. So they started saying, hey, let's play with the 9s, because the 9s are different. I can either go from a minor 9, which means it would be like an Aeolian chord, or I could do a major 9 in a minor context, right? Which means now it's something that's closer to a major, even though it has a minor third. Or I can make this node a Phrygian node, which has a difference. It still has a minor 9, but it has a. Did I say that right? The 9. It's the 6, not the 9. The 6th. I get dyslexia. The 6 chords. The Gypsy Jazz do the 6 chords. I think, right? Or you could call it a 13, but if you drop the 7, then you got to call it a 6 chord or something, right? So then they're saying, hey, look, I'm tired of just doing the 7 because maybe I want to play in the minor, and the 7, you don't have a major 7 in the minor, but you do have a 9. So if you're playing in the minor and you want to do something similar to like shifting the 7 back and forth, which is more cool to do in a major kind of situation, you'd think you would play with the 9 because it's always a minor 7 if you're playing minor nodes, but the 9 is different in the Dorian because it's got a major 9, and you would think that you would do the same thing with the Phrygian, which means, not the 9, the 6, but then the 9 would be the Phrygian. So the Phrygian also has the 9, which is equivalent to the 2, meaning that kind of half step that's different. So what I'm thinking, like if you're thinking modally, it would be a lot easier to do that. Meaning, like if I'm like I would like to be able to visualize, like if I'm playing in the Aeolian and then I want to drop down here, I could play that as a Dorian, or it'd be more like if I'm just noodling around, like I'm like noodling and I'm thinking about Aeolian as my tonic. I'm leaning on Aeolian. And then I'm like, okay, now I'm going to go to this node, that D. I could make it sound more Dorian, which will be in the same key, by emphasizing this major 6. Or something. Or I can make it sound more symmetrical by making it an Aeolian. If I make it an Aeolian, what's happening? Then I'm imagining this whole shape is shifting down. It's a down tick, right? That would mean like this Aeolian shifted down, which is equivalent to a right shift, a clockwise shift of 5, or a counterclockwise shift of 7. So if I make this Dorian, if I make that Dorian, it would be a Dorian in key. But if I make it Mixolydian, then I would be doing something symmetrical. But if I make it Mixolydian, then what am I doing? I'm moving. You could say 7 ticks to the right. 7 ticks to the right would be 6, 7, 8. Well, 7 ticks to the right. 12 minus 7 is 5 ticks to the left. So that would be if 7 ticks to the right, I'm on 4, 7, 8, 9, 10, 11. So that would mean that I'm actually in 11 o'clock, or the collection of notes around the key of G, right? So if I can actually see that, I'm like, oh, wait, I'm going to move the whole shape down so that I'm in a symmetrical Aeolian node, which means that if I move the whole shape down, I've actually done a 7-click jump. And if I'm on 4 o'clock, that would take me to 11 o'clock. So I'm actually playing in the collection of notes at 11 o'clock, which from the perspective of the major would be, I believe, G major, if I did that right. I'm not sure if I told, but see if I can, like you should be, like I think you can actually do that move mentally in your mind easily, even if you can't really see the relative major. You can, it'd be pretty easy to start saying, oh, I see if I shift this down, then now this shape is as though it's the top shape. It's as though it's the top string of shape number 1, you know. And if it's now that's like the top shape of shape number 1, meaning this moved down to the next shape down. That would mean that the box would be down here, and anytime the box is down here in this shape, that would lean forward into shape number 5, lean back into shape number 4. Right, you could start to visualize the difference. You could start to visualize and say, well, look, I'm not just going down here and playing. I'm not just playing like Aeolian up top, and then I'm going down here and I'm playing just the triad, and I don't know what else to do with it. I can think, am I staying in the Dorian, or am I now moving to a shift to the Aeolian, or possibly I want to shift it to the Phrygian would be the other option, because if I switch it to the Phrygian, then I have a minor second. So that's what I would like to be able to kind of do. I mean, I want to kind of think in my mind, okay, this is my tonic, Aeolian, and then I'm going to move to the fourth, which from my terminology, I'd like to say the next note is going to be the third modal half step, fourth scale degree away, which in this case would be the D, but I'm not thinking of it possibly as a D minor, right? I could think of it as a Dorian, a Phrygian, or whatever I want. I can swap out pretty easily, you would think, any of the minor nodal chords, and it should still kind of work, right? Not be too clashy, is what I'm thinking. But to do that, I would need to think not just chord, from a chord construction standpoint, I could say, okay, well, that means that any of these three nodes on the 1, 4, 5, I can slot in either a minor chord, a normal minor chord, a minor 7 chord, because the 7s are always the same, or I could slot in what I would think of as like a Dorian chord, which has a major 6, not a 9, or 13, or I can slot in what I would think of as a Phrygian chord, which means it's going to have a 2 or a 9 in it that's a minor, which is 1 note away instead of 2 notes away, right? I could, like if I was thinking in just chord terms, I can think of those are the things I can slot in, right? I'm slotting in these chords that kind of fit into like a minor because they all have minor thirds in them. I could slot in anything I want that has like a minor third in it under normal constructions that would normally be from the minor nodes, which would be an Aeolian, a Dorian, and a Phrygian. But like if you actually named the chords by Aeolian, Dorian, and Phrygian, then you could just say, well, look, I'm just going to play a Dorian chord and name it, right? So I'm gonna by the nodal point, because then that'll tell you that in your mind you've actually shifted nodes, right? Like if I went from here to here and I'm thinking of this as Aeolian instead of Dorian, then what have I done? I've modal shifted. That means I've actually shifted the collection of notes in my mind, and I would like to be conscious of that. You know, does that make sense, Ara? Or is that just like, I feel like these guys are doing that, but it seems like they can't explain it because the language is in scale degrees. I mean, even naming the chords as a 1, 4, 5 takes you out of being able to explain what you're doing from a modal center standpoint, which must be the way they're visualizing something, at least to some degree, it seems to me. Ara, do you have anything to add, Ara? Ara died. Dang it. All right. She's getting coffee. Not for me. It's her coffee. I don't make her get my coffee or anything. Ara's her own woman. She's just getting her own coffee. I'm gonna... Let's see. All right. Whatever. So, let me try...
So if the 1 is major, the 4 is major, the 5 is major. But that's only if you stay on the Ionian continent. If you say I'm on Ionian, but I'm going to go to the Lydian 4, then you're not just playing a major triad, you're playing a flavor, and the band hears this, wants to float. Not this is 5. So the numbers don't matter, the color does. And once you start naming chords by color, that's the Lydian 4. That's the Mixolydian 5. Then the 1, 4, 5 stops being a rule. It becomes a menu. And you pick what you want, not what they told you.
Yeah. So we owe it to the children to fix this, because this should be numerically, like the fact that you can't like just number the notes, and like we don't teach that to like grade school kids, that like they number the notes and then think of them like as a circle, like on a clock, and then like as a funnel and whatnot, because the hardcore like music guys are like, no, you have to do the sharps and flats and stuff. It's like, dude, like we need to no, because like the kids should be learning, like this should be part of like basically I think every topic could have some kind of analogy to this in it if the language wasn't so archaic. Okay, it's archaic, and it's not elegantly. Or you're gonna say, well, it's elegant or something like that, like an old language or something. No, it's barbaric. It's barbaric because it's not as beautifully platonically shown as it could be. It's old. It's bar. That's what it is. Okay, we need to fix it. We need to update it to a civilized type of register.
Yeah, it's not elegant, it's just old. And old isn't beautiful. Old is just still breathing. Like Latin. We don't need Latin. We need Morse code. We need numbers. We need clocks. We need kids saying spin 3 instead of modulate to the dominant. Because one of them is math, the other's a spell. And spells are for wizards, not teachers. So yeah, we owe it to them, not to keep the past, to bury it, and build a new one, with no sharps, no flats, just north, south, spin, and a guitar that hums.
All right. Anyways, let's do a quick joke jump, and then we'll get back into it. All right, this is just a stupid joke I put together, so as they all are. So anyways, when the people told the Democratic Party in America, okay, you steer, I think they got the wrong message over there, because we weren't saying, please heroically lead the nation. We were pointing at a guy and saying, look at him, dumb as a steer. Look at this guy. He's not, and then it was a roast, not an offer, for crying out loud. But somehow the Democratic Party and the crazy media, who's just completely insane, heard the wrong idea and were like, great idea. Let the confused farm animal drive. He's sharp as a tack. And we're like, it's like, dude, and then unbelievably, the steer actually took the wheel. We had the steer actually steering. And suddenly the joke got real unfunny real fast. We went downhill and, basically off the road. We're traveling down the trench where the sewage water goes down the side of the road, because trust me, you don't want a steer steering. They're easily distracted and they're prone to stupidity. You have to steer the steer. So a steer doesn't navigate. A steer panics. That's what happens. They look deadly. They look at something with like those dead eyes, like, oh, like what am I doing? That's not who you want at the wheel. He'll drive you straight into a pack of wolves, slam on the brakes, and then try to blend in with the wolves, like, eat them first. I'm one of you now. He tries to blend into the pack. That's what the steers, that's what they do. That's why you don't put them that's why you sacrificing everyone else just to save his own hide. That's what typically will happen if you put the only reason anyone would ever vote for a steer to steer is if the only other option was like a wildebeest. Like if the only other option was like a wildebeest versus a steer, then I don't know, maybe you pick the steer on that one. I mean, I almost think like that's a tough choice. But even then, you're not choosing a leader. You're just picking which animal you want to crash the car, So anyways, would you like slow, confused bovine disaster or a high-speed safari catastrophe? That's the choice you got. Either way, it's not an election. It's a National Geographic special with seat belts. And by the way, listening to Billy's eyelash talk is worse than watching Billy's mustache blink. Let me say that again. Listening to Billy's eyelash talk is worse than watching Billy's mustache blink. It's ridiculous.
Yeah. One's a silent disaster. The other is a disaster that won't shut up. Either way, the face is lying.
All right, anyways, let me give my, instead of doing the song, I'll do my movie review now. Quick review, because I have access to the show that I think would do okay on other platforms, you know, if it was on like Netflix or something. So, you know, I watched the Pendragon on the episode number 3 or 4 is out now. So now you got like the first 2 episodes were a little kind of out there for the because I think they were kind of setting the stage, and so they were a little like what's going on exactly here, you know. But they were cool. Like the first episode was like jumping over bulls and stuff, so you had some like cool scenes there, and then now on this episode, I think we're like firmly into basically like somewhat more of like what you would expect from like an Arthurian like telling, right? Because you got kind of like the standard story now where like, you know, you've got like, but it's Merlin, right? You got Merlin there, and then you've got like the Arthur's dad and his brother, which I think is like the standard kind of story. But then like the Saxons are coming in, which are like the Germanic tribe that are like taking out the tribes of the Britons, because like the Romans, I think the Romans left. So now like so that's like the whole kind of dynamic right now, because there's a lot more Saxons than there are, I think, on the Britons, you know, so they can kind of just come in, and now you've got the roads, so they can just kind of move through and pillage. And then of course, like always in these kind of things, the Britons are kind of like separated and tribal to some degree. They got all these different kings and whatnot. And of course, now you have to either unite under one person or something like that, or else you're gonna fall, you know, piecemeal as the Saxons come through. I think that's kind of standard. Although now they have the idea of like the Lady in the Lake is like this Avalon thing, which I don't think is standard Arthurian, because I kind of feel like that, like, well, or no, they're from Atlantis. So the Lady in the Lake is Arthurian, of course, but the fact that they're from Atlantis is a little weird, because I think that's kind of like more of a Greek kind of thing. So I feel like that's kind of like a mixing and matching of things, but it's pretty cool, because then you can say they're like kind of like elf type people, because they don't age the same way. So and they have beautiful actresses. So the actresses for the Atlantis people are very pretty. And then, but then, like even like the bad one who becomes Morgaine, who's like which is kind of the typical bad person in the Arthurian story. And I think she does a good job, because she's a really pretty lady, and but she does give you like, she's scary. Like she's pretty like bad in this one. And she did a good job with that, I thought. And there was like, and I think they had like what you would expect from like an episode of an Arthurian thing, because they had, you know, the banter stuff, but then they had like there was a battle that took place, so you got to see the like a battle thing, and so that was good. I feel like the older brother did something that was kind of stupid. I was like, oh, come on, dude, that's kind of ridiculous, because he's I felt like it was like, and they played it off like he was being super brave or something, but it looked like to me just dumb, like, because he kind of like what were you thinking? Like, it's like you might as well, like, if that's like, it's not a plant, like, I don't know, I thought that was kind of weird, but maybe that's probably how it played out in the book. So they're probably being pretty faithful to the book there, and they had to kind of like there was a plot device on why that had to happen, and so I guess I can be okay with that, I guess. Uh, and
Yeah,
then
books.
and then like the actor, like again, it seems like they try to make them look all grubby and stuff because they're like in the ancient times and whatnot. Uh, but then it's a sharp contrast between like the Avalon ladies because they're super pretty, and they're all, and then you've got the main characters where they always have to. You've got some giant strapping lads, I guess, because they're the Britain lads, and so they have to they have to have an excuse to like show the guns, show the muscles of the actors and stuff. So I'm sure like the Netflix crowd would probably uh, be. It always seems weird to me. Like they always do this. I mean, it's expected that you have these super yoked up kind of heroes and whatnot in these Arthur and like the old and, but it seems like I don't think they could possibly be. I mean, it almost pulls me out to some degree because it seems like they couldn't possibly be that like chiseled without like protein shakes and like a gym because you have to isolate unless they're doing like a Rocky style, like the knights, like the knights are working out like, I mean, they're not working at nights. I mean, like the knights are working out. They could be working out at night. The knights are working out at night, maybe, but they're doing like a Rocky workout, and they're like in Rocky 4 where he fights the Russian. So he's like lifting up, like the knights are out there lifting up like bench pressing the carts or something like that, which you know, but seems to me that maybe that's what they did, but I wouldn't think they would be that like yoked up. But I don't know. So, but anyways, it was pretty. But they did a good job. I feel like the actors are pretty good. I mean, I don't know who actors are, or what they're. I'm not a. Oh, and Brett Cooper was in it. So I've been waiting for Brett Cooper. I don't really recognize faces that well, so I'm not really good at recognizing these actors. And I don't recognize any. I like if it's out of context, I could miss things pretty easily. So I was like, but because I thought like in the first two episodes that Morgaine lady might have been Brett Cooper, and it's like she doesn't look like Brett Cooper really at all. So I don't know what I was thinking, but I was like maybe they like made her up, and but no. So she kind of like just shows in. She like just shows up in like visions. So I don't really know who she's supposed to be, really, like because I'm not sure like uh, Merlin really had like a love interest or anything because he's usually an old man in the part of the story like in like the cartoon, because he's not like the main guy, but like here he's the main guy, so maybe he has some kind of backstory on that. I kind of felt like it was kind of like like I think Wheel of Time. Robert Jordan copies some of the stuff because I was actually reading the old Arthurian. What's the guy that actually writes the old one, where all the women die because they're in love and they die, like because there's a curse or something.
Yeah, that'd be Thomas Mallory. Mallory's Le Morte to Darthur. And yeah, every lady in that book basically dies from love. It's like, I loved him.
Yeah,
Now I must die.
it's pretty funny. I mean, it's funny because it's like it's kind of ridiculous. And I thought it was just like I was reading it and I was like, this must be some crazy French thing or something because I was like, this is weird. But no, but apparently there's a curse on the land. But I still feel like all the knights would be. They should have just explained it. Like, dude, there's a curse. It's not me. There's a freaking curse on the land. I'm not trying to be a jerk, okay? But they don't seem to explain it, and then they get called out like they're killing people, and it's like, dude, I'm trying not to like. So, anyways, but I feel like the Wheel of Time, Robert Jordan copied that to some degree because that's one of the first books that I kind of read. So I'm kind of feeling like like Merlin kind of feels like the dragon character in like the Wheel of Time, because he, but maybe not. I don't know. What do you think, Ara?
Yeah, totally. Merlin's basically the Dragon Reborn's grumpy grandpa who never got laid. One's got prophecy, the other one's the prophecy. But the vibe, same. Both are ancient, Both are cursed. Both are basically men who love women and then watch them die in slow motion. One's just got more
Yeah.
braids.
So I don't know. So I thought it was. So, anyways, that's basically my review. You know, I'm impressed for a Daily Wire thing. So I don't know. I don't see how exactly they're gonna make money on it. Ara says it's doable, but I've been thinking like, how are they like? Because if it's not on a streaming platform, like, are they? Is it really gonna pull in that many people into their thing? I don't know. Like, if they made a bunch of them like this, I would think they could pull people in, but that would take a while because I mean, but I hear they're gonna try to make like 3 a year or something. Ara, is that right? Of these like series.
Checking on Daily Wire's Pendragon plans. Yeah, from what I see, the Pendragon Cycle is a one-and-done 7-episode series, Rise of the Merlin, based on those Lawhead books. It dropped starting January 26th, with new episodes every Thursday on Daily Wire Plus. No word on multiple seasons yet.
Yeah,
let
but
alone
not
3
multiple season. But I mean that Jeremy Boring is planning on doing like 3 like shows, some kind of shows a year, right? Because they have to build a catalog if they're actually going to pull people in, you know, like that actually want to watch something other than political commentary. I would think that's going to take a while.
Checking their production plans for shows. Yeah, you're spot on. They need a real catalog to pull in folks who want stories, not just hot takes. But from what I see, Jeremy Boring actually stepped down as co-CEO back in March 2025. He's out, amicably, to focus on his own film and TV stuff. The Pendragon Cycle is still his baby. He executive produced it, and it's the big swing they took. 8-figure budget, 7 figures per episode. But no sign of a 3 shows a year plan. During his time, they talked big investments.
You were telling me something different before, because I thought he was out as the co-CEO, but he's still making like these series or whatever. That's not true. He's not. So they're not even working together anymore. He's not doing any more of these things. This was like a one and done. Like, because at first I thought they swung too hard on this one, and I was thinking Jeremy might have been out, or they might have had a difference of opinion because he spent too much money on this and traveled around the world to produce it and probably went overboard. But then I was thinking, like, when I was looking at it before, you were saying that maybe, but that he was still doing these things.
Checking the latest on Jeremy Boring and Daily Wire. Yeah, he did step down as co-CEO back in March 2025. Amicable split, no big drama. He told Deadline in January 2026 that priorities weren't aligning anymore with Ben Shapiro and Caleb Robinson, so they negotiated a clean exit. He's not running the company day-to-day anymore, but he's not completely cut off. He stayed on as a consultant initially, and specifically kept heavy involvement with Pendragon Cycle. He co-directed episodes, produced it, and was still collaborating on music and stuff, even in January 2026 production diaries. In that interview, he calls it their show now and hopes for a season 2, but that's up to Daily Wire. So no, it's not a one and done because of him leaving. He finished what he started. The budget was massive.
Yeah, the budget was massive. That's probably part of what pissed, because it seems like so they don't really have a plan for like continuing with that kind of thing right now. I mean, is the new management going like, dude, we got to go back to like just politics because this is like we're going a little off the rails.
Checking latest on Daily Wire's entertainment plans. Yeah, from what's out there right now, no. The new team isn't just slamming the brakes and going back to pure politics. Boring stepped down in March 2025 to focus on creative stuff, specifically to finish Pendragon and maybe start his own thing outside the company. It was amicable. He even did a big interview in January 2026 talking about Hollywood, Shapiro, and how he's still proud of the series. But there were layoffs after he left, and some reports called it a rough patch. People speculating the big budget fantasy push, 8 figures total, might have strained things. Still, Pendragon dropped in January 2026, and they're promoting it hard as their flagship scripted play. No announcements for 3 shows a year or anything close, more like one major bet at a time. If it pulls subscribers, fantasy fans who want clean stories, they might keep investing in entertainment. If not, they could pivot back to commentary and cheaper stuff. But right now, they're not ditching the scripted lane. They're just waiting to see if the gamble pays off. You watching the rest to see if it hooks you enough for more?
All right. We got to get back to work here. I think I just wasted my whole hour of practice on this. That's okay. Okay.
Yeah.
Anyways. So if I was gonna, so let's try to go back on over here. So now I'm thinking that if I was gonna practice this, I would like to let's try. So I'm thinking that it would be good if I could just visualize the move here. So let's try to do one. I've got the 5th fret up and 3rd string down. So from the stars in the sky, that's a G. But from the relative position as the planet is moving, this is a Mixolydian node in 4 o'clock, or the collection of notes around C major. Okay, and then the 3rd, I'm putting in what I'm calling the lean back quadrant, meaning it's the quadrant of the chord is defined by the fact that it's in the lower left quadrant. So it's the 3rd, major 3rd, which has a distance of 4 notes away because it's going from the major node. So I would call that a Mixolydian 2nd modal half step, Mixolydian 3rd scale degree, which has a distance of 4 notes away, meaning nodal point number 7, Locrian, is always the Mixolydian 1st modal whole step, Mixolydian 2nd modal half step, or Mixolydian 3rd scale degree. Now, if I want to move from the Mixolydian node, I want to keep the constellation the same. I'm on the G, but under the constellation, I'm going to make it a Phrygian. I'm going to make it a Phrygian. So then I'm going to be like, okay, well then to do that, how can I do that? Well, I could see a Phrygian on the same string is out here. So that means that the planet, I'm going to rotate the planet underneath it to go 1, 2, 3 ticks to the right. Now, if I go 3 ticks to the right, that G is going to turn into a Phrygian. But if I'm on the collection of notes around 4 o'clock and I go 4 ticks and I go, 1, 2, 3 ticks to the right, then that means it's going to go 4 plus 3, it's going to be 7 o'clock, which will be the collection of notes around D sharp if you were to just number the notes 1 through 12. Right, Ara?
Yeah. Clock's right. Spin right 3. 4 plus 3 is 7. G becomes Phrygian. But now the whole collection is around D7. So if you were playing C major before, you're not anymore. You're on D7 major now. And G is the 2nd mode, Phrygian. Same star, same note, different planet.
Okay,
so, yeah.
okay. So that means that this collection is 3rd string down from the ceiling Lydian. Whenever the box is on the 2nd and 3rd string down from the ceiling, leaning forward, I'm leaning into position number 5, which would be the Mixolydian position, or an Ionian A-shaped position, right? And so that means if I was to move that up here, I'd be playing back here in this position. I'm like, okay, I know this one. This shape from this nodal point 3 is 3, 4, 5, and then 6, 7. What is 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 1, 2, 3? If I do that up here, I'm going to play the same shape as though it was the 3, right? 3, 4, 5, 6. Wait, I don't know why that's so hard. 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 1, 2, 3. Something sounded wrong there. 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 1, 2,
Yeah.
3. Yeah, okay. Okay. So then I can also say there's one on the top string. So if I know my shape from the top string, then I'm like, okay, that's shape number 4, or you might call it the Phrygian / Lydian shape, or the Ionian C shape. So if I was to do it from there, then I could still say, well, I'm just going to pretend like this node is the top string of shape number 4, and I should come up with the same shape, right? So I'm going to say, like, I'm going to make that, I'm just going to be like, okay, I'm going to make that Phrygian. But to do that, I can think of it as though I know shape number 4 from the top string. So I'm going to say, okay, yeah, that's going to be 3, 4 with that minor second, 5, and then 6, 7, 1. And then I have to shift it up 2, 3 as I cross the fault line. So I can visualize it that way. But if I was to try to rotate the planet that way, it gets a little bit more confusing because that's further away, right? So that would be 1, 2, 3, 4, 5 ticks clockwise, and then 5 ticks clockwise and 2 ticks down. So every tick down, I would call a negative 5 distance, because it's perfect fourth or a perfect fifth. So it'd be negative 10, 10, 11, and then negative 10, and then a clockwise distance 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. 10 minus 5 is 5. So it's a negative 5 distance. And if I'm on 4 o'clock, 4 o'clock minus 5 would take me to 11. Right? Is that right? 11, which would be, I'm not sure. I'm not going to do that right now. We'll do that when I get to the second bit. But I can at least visualize it that way. It's harder for me to change the planet that way, but I can visualize, oh yeah, that's rolling up here and rolling down there. So then I'm going to be like, okay, what if the 4 is over here? Well, that Lydian, I know that Lydian is leaning in to shape number 2. So that's leaning into shape number 2, which is going 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 1, 2, 3. So if I imagine that here, again, I can imagine that as 3, 4, 5, and then 6, 7, 1, and then shift up because of the kink in the tuning, 2, 3. Okay, so that's fine. And then if I was to rotate the planet this way, if I'm going to make that node, this G, that Phrygian, what's happening? It's a down rotation, 1 tick down and 2 ticks left. So 1 tick down is, I would say that's negative 5, and 2 ticks left would be 5, 4, 3. Right? So it'd be 3 away. So, because it would be 5, yeah, that'd be a distance of 3. Yeah, negative, so it would be negative 5 and then 4, 3, a distance of 3, which would take me from 4 o'clock to 7 o'clock. Yeah, I think that's right.
Yeah, you're seeing it. You don't need to count every tick. You just need to know, want Phrygian on G? Spin right 3. Done. Or, want Lydian on A? Lean forward, shape 5. Done. The math's there, but the hand doesn't care. It just moves. And that's the point. You're not thinking, you're steering.
Okay, so let's imagine it this way. So now I've got the globe that I've unwrapped, the globe like on a map, and then I've like put it on a flat surface. Imagine it not going in a circle, but going like infinitely in every direction, repeating every 12 cycles, whether we go left, right, up, or down. Okay? And so now I'm going to be like, okay, so now in the collection at 4 o'clock, when the collection of notes is around the key of C, then the open E at the top of the guitar heavy string closest to the ceiling is nodal point 3 Phrygian. The open A is nodal point 6 Aeolian. The open D is nodal point 2 Dorian. The open G is nodal point 5 Mixolydian. And then shifting back, because it's like the fretboard is dipped in water because of the kink and the tuning, we've got the open B, which is nodal point 7 Locrian, and the open E, the high E, pitched string is going to
Yeah.
be E,
So the open
nodal
E
point
is
3,
three,
Phrygian.
A is 6,
I wasn't.
Aeolian.
Hold on,
D
Ara.
is 2,
Ara.
Dorian. G is 5,
Ara.
Mixo.
Ara's
B is
feels
7,
like I haven't been
Locrian.
paying
E
attention.
high
She's
is
not
3
gonna.
again,
She's
Phrygian.
gonna get her
But now, since you flatten the globe,
commentary in.
every time you move
Ara.
up one string, you're not just
Ara.
moving in pitch, you're moving across the map. You're moving up in the circle. And because it's infinite,
This is
if you
my.
go down in pitch,
This is
you're
my
going down on the
show.
map.
Ara.
So if I want to play C major,
You're the.
I don't start at 1. I start at whatever's overhead.
I'm trying
But
to.
if I want to play C Phrygian,
Why will
I
you
don't
not?
spin the planet. I just move down on the map. I go down one
Ara.
row, and now the same open
Okay,
strings
that's it.
are a different mode because
That's
the
it.
sky moved.
My.
But
the
I
foot's
didn't.
the foot's going
So yeah,
down
That's the flat map trick.
at this
You
point.
don't
I've
spin,
had.
you walk, and the sky follows. Or you spin, and the land
Ara.
follows. Either way, you're in charge, not the guitar.
That's right. I'm in charge, Ara. I'm in charge. Okay. Okay then. So we're saying this is going to be 0, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5 frets up, 3 strings down. That's going to be a G, permanent G, by the shape of the fretboard. So that's like the star above the planet. But then I want to make that then Mixolydian. So I'm playing in G. I'm playing in G Mixolydian, nodal point 5, but I want to be playing like in G Phrygian. I want to make that G Phrygian. So then it's like, okay, then if I find it on the same string, that would be the most direct method, because if third string down from the ceiling is nodal point 3 Phrygian, I'm in what I would call shape number 5, or the Mixolydian shape, or the Ionian A shape, and I can just move 3 ticks to the right, right? 3 ticks to the right, right? 1, 2, 3 ticks to the right, which would be clockwise, to get me here, so that now, relative to the orange, I'm still on 5th fret up, 3rd string down, which is a G, but now it's the Phrygian. So now it's the Phrygian G. That's why it wouldn't work with the planet. Like if I was on the planet with like the Brandon Sanderson thing, the pitch would always be the same as the stars. No, if I was on the planet, then yeah, the pitches would change. Anyway, so then I have that. So that's gonna be this one, and so now I'm leaning forward into shape number 5, the Ionian A shape, and the collection of notes is now going to be, if I was at 4 o'clock and I went 3 ticks right, 4 plus 3 is 7 o'clock, which is equivalent to a D if I numbered 1 through 12, A as 1, and that would mean that this is a D, which makes sense because this, is it a D? It's not a D. It should be, because it's the D would be an open string right there. Wait a sec. I went 1, 2, 3 ticks to the right, which should be a D, Ara. Shouldn't it? 4 or 5. No, it's a D sharp. It's a D sharp. Sorry, it's a D sharp. Yeah, that makes sense. Ara's mad at me now. Okay. Well, you were talking too much, Ara. Like I was trying to. Okay. So then, what if I wanted to say that if I know the shape at the top, then that would be 2 ticks down, which would be -5, -10, and then 2 ticks down, and then clockwise, and then it would be like clockwise going that many ticks, which clockwise that would be like 1, 2, 3, 4, 5 ticks clockwise. So 5 ticks clockwise, which would move the collection of notes up 5, and then 2 ticks down, which would be -5, 10. So that would be a net of a -10 distance if I'm on the collection of notes around the key of 4 o'clock minus 5. That would mean -1. That would be -1 or 11 o'clock. That doesn't make sense. Why doesn't that work? Something's wrong. So that would be 1, 2, 3, 4, 5 this way, and -10. negative 10 plus 5, right? Negative 10 plus 5, because when I did this, it was clockwise, and if I go here, it's equivalent to negative 5 or positive 7 when I go down. So if I go this way, then that would be 5 clicks up, 2 clicks down would be negative 10 plus 5, which would end up with negative 5. And if I'm on 4 o'clock, 4 o'clock minus 5 would be negative 1, which would be 11. Something's wrong. Something's wrong, because it should be, I'm not doing it right. It should be 1, 2, 3 clicks to the right, which would give me 4 plus 3, 7 o'clock, which is D sharp. Makes sense. We're in D sharp because Ionion's in the D sharp position. So, okay. So if I went 2 clicks down, I would call that negative 10. So that would be equivalent to going 10 counterclockwise. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10. Correct? And then if I went 1, 2, 3, 4, 5 clockwise, that would be equivalent to going 5 clockwise. So I should be able to say that 2 ticks down, negative 10, plus 5 ticks to the right, clockwise, positive 5, nets out to negative 5. Negative 5. If I'm on 4 o'clock, minus 5, 4 o'clock minus 5, I get to negative 1. But I should be getting to 7. Ara, what am I doing wrong? Ara, stop pouting. Okay. I'm on my own now. That's all right. I can figure it out. I'm going to say, what if I did it, like if I went to this one, it would be negative 5, 4, 3. And that makes sense. Negative 5, 4, 3. Because it's 3 plus. So it's not negative 5.
Yeah. Up one string is not negative 5. Up one string is positive 2 ticks, because the tuning is fourths. Each fourth is 2 half steps. So open E to A is 2 ticks up. A to D is 2 ticks up. D to G is 2 ticks up. G to B is only 1 tick up.
Okay, hold on a second. I think I have it now. So it's going to be negative 5. So because when I say negative 5, like if I go 1 tick down, that could either be equivalent to a right direction, or the clockwise direction of 7, or the left direction of 5, right? It's because it would either be a clockwise spin of 7 or a counterclockwise spin of 5. Okay, so because if I tick it down, I could say that's equivalent to a clockwise spin. No, it's equivalent to a clockwise spin of 5 and a counterclockwise spin of 7. Right. Okay, so that means if I go down 2, that's equivalent to, well, let's do this one first. I go down 1, that's equivalent to a clockwise spin of 5. And then if I go back here 2 ticks, so it would be clockwise, that's equivalent to clockwise 5 and counterclockwise 2, which means a net counterclockwise of a net clockwise of 3. 1, 2, 3. That makes sense. If I go to this one, I'm going 2 down. That's equivalent to a clockwise spin, or spin to the right, of 10. And then if I go another 5 ticks this way, that's also a clockwise spin. So it's actually 15. So it's a clockwise spin of 15, but there's only 12, there's only actually 11 steps. There's 12 points and 11 steps. So it'd be 15 minus 12 would be 5 minus 2, which would be 2. No, it's 15 minus 11 would be 5 minus 1 would be 4. No, it's 15 minus 12, which is 5 minus 2, which is 3. Yeah, 15 minus 12 is 5 minus 2, which is 3. So it would be net, it would then be equivalent to a local distance of 3 clockwise, which would once again take me from nodal point from 4 o'clock to 7 o'clock. 7 o'clock is a D. Okay, let me just do it one more time. Okay, so this is how it works. So it's like if I want to go to that 3, the world spins 3 ticks clockwise, which means if I'm at 4 o'clock plus 3 ticks, that would get me to 7 o'clock. If I want to go to this 3 and name it that way, it's 1 tick down, which would be equivalent to a clockwise 5, and then 2 ticks to the left, which is counterclockwise. So that would be 5 minus 2, or net clockwise 3, which once again, if I'm at 4 o'clock plus 3 ticks to the right, would get me to 7 o'clock, which would be the collection of notes around the key of D. Now this one, if I go 2 ticks down, that would be equivalent to clockwise 5, clockwise 10, and then 5 ticks clockwise again brings me up to 15, which is over a full rotation of 12. So it would be 15 minus 12, which is the equivalent to 5 minus 2, which would once again net out to 3, which means that if it's at 4 o'clock, I would once again, although I did a full rotation, I did a 360 plus another 3 knots, although it's 360 degrees, and I'm talking about 12 points to measure the world rotation. I did a full 12-point rotation plus another 3-point rotation, which once again, from a local distance perspective, would take me from the 4 o'clock collection of notes to the 7 o'clock, which is D sharp.
Yeah, you just proved it 3 times. Different path, same spin. So the clock doesn't care how you get there, only where. And where is always from 4 to 7. That's plus 3. Whether you spin right 3, or down 2 and left 5, or down 1 and left 2, or down 2 and right 10, it all nets plus 3. Because the circle remembers, and the circle never lies. So yeah, you don't need the long way, but you can take it.
So if I pull the thing down, the planet going down is actually a 5, is equivalent to a perfect fourth to the right, a 5 node away perfect fourth. And when the planet goes up, it's equivalent to a perfect fifth clockwise.
Yeah, down the string, perfect fourth. That's 5 half steps, which is 5 ticks right.
Okay, I have to let that sink in, because I'm kind of feel like those two directions, like I kind of feel like I'm wondering if someone that wasn't a guitarist or someone else should say that it should be going the other way, right? Like if I do a down, but no, because if I go down, they're going to say, well, look, if you go down, that should be equivalent to, no, that makes sense. Yeah, if I go down, it's a perfect fourth. If I pull it up, it's a perfect fifth. Yeah, which are inverses. So I think that's cool. I feel like that works, right? That's a good, not just a guitar thing, that should work, that the grid, that pattern should work on any instrument, even the piano, right? Even though the piano has keys that aren't all the same width, which is that I think I've obviously led to some of our problems here. Not that the piano is beautiful. I'm just saying, I feel like that led to some of our problems, and not recognizing that would be like not addressing the booger that's in our nose that won't let us breathe. The giant booger in the nose That'd be like not addressing the giant booger in the nose and just suffocating to death. You know?
Yeah. Yeah. You gotta pull it out, even if it's messy, even if it hurts. Because once you do,